Across mountains, islands, forests and ancient cities, generations of monks created places of silence, beauty and faith that still inspire the world today. From monasteries carved into cliffs to golden sanctuaries rising above the clouds, these are the most breathtaking Christian monasteries ever built. Along the banks of the Tagus River in Lisbon stands one of the most breathtaking monuments of Christian Europe, the Monastery of the Hieronymites, also known as Jeronimos Monastery. Construction of the monastery began in 1501 under the reign of King Manuel I during the height of Portugal's maritime empire. The project was financed largely through wealth flowing from overseas trade routes newly opened by Portuguese explorers. The monastery was entrusted to the Order of St. Jerome, whose monks prayed for sailors embarking on dangerous voyages across unknown oceans. According to tradition, explorer Vasco da Gama spent the night in prayer here before departing on the voyage that would open the sea route to India. The monastery is considered the finest example of Manueline architecture, a uniquely Portuguese style that blends late Gothic structure with maritime symbols, Renaissance influences, and intricate decorative artistry. Every surface seems alive with meaning. Stone ropes twist around columns, exotic plants, sea creatures, royal emblems and Christian symbols are woven into arches and windows. The south portal is among the most spectacular entrances in Europe. Rising dramatically above visitors, it is filled with statues of saints, apostles and biblical figures, all framed by impossibly detailed carvings that resemble sculpted embroidery. Inside, the vast nave of the church creates a sense of heavenly openness. Slender columns branch upward like palm trees supporting a celestial canopy of stone. Sunlight filters through stained glass and illuminates the pale interior with an almost ethereal softness. The beauty of the Monastery of the Hieronymites lies not only in its architecture, but in the emotional experience it creates. It represents a rare union of artistic brilliance, spiritual purpose, and historical significance. From the exuberant shores of Portugal, our journey takes us inland to Spain, where El Escorial rises with imposing, severe grandeur. El Escorial is more than a monastery. It is a royal palace, a basilica, a library, a mausoleum, and a symbol of Spain's golden age. The monastery was commissioned in 1563 by King Philip II of Spain, following Spain's victory at the Battle of St. Quentin. Intended as both a religious foundation and a royal dynastic centre, El Escorial reflected Philip's vision of Spain as the defender of Catholic Christianity during a turbulent era of religious conflict in Europe. Construction lasted more than 2 decades under the direction of architects Juan Bautista de Toledo and later Juan de Herrera, whose austere geometric style would profoundly influence Spanish architecture for generations. Its architecture is defined by clean lines, balanced courtyards, vast corridors, and carefully ordered spaces that evoke contemplation and discipline. The monastery's granite exterior gives it an almost fortress-like appearance, yet this severity creates a powerful spiritual atmosphere. Among its greatest treasures is its extraordinary library, considered one of the finest Renaissance libraries in Europe. The long vaulted hall is lined with ancient manuscripts and illuminated by magnificent frescoes depicting philosophy, theology, astronomy, and the liberal arts. The library houses thousands of priceless texts in Latin, Greek, Arabic, and Hebrew, preserving centuries of religious, scientific, and philosophical thought. The beauty of El Escorial lies in its extraordinary ability to inspire awe without relying on extravagance. It demonstrates how simplicity, scale and proportion can create spiritual power equal to the most ornate cathedrals in Europe. Suspended dramatically within the vertical cliffs of Montenegro's mountains, the Ostrog Monastery is one of the most extraordinary Christian monasteries on earth. Built directly into a sheer rock face high above the Zeta Valley, the monastery appears almost miraculous, as though it emerged naturally from the mountain itself. It was founded in the 17th century by Saint Basil of Ostrog, one of the most revered saints of the Serbian Orthodox Church. During a period marked by Ottoman pressure and instability in the Balkans, St. Basil sought refuge in the mountains, creating a spiritual sanctuary carved into the rock itself. The visual power of Ostrog comes from its astonishing harmony with nature. Rather than dominating the landscape, the monastery seems to belong to it completely. The upper monastery, with its brilliant white facade, emerges directly from the cliffside more than 900 meters above the valley below. Narrow terraces and stairways connect chapels hidden within caves and natural rock chambers. Inside, the atmosphere changes from dramatic to deeply intimate. Small chapels carved into the stone are illuminated by candles whose smoke has darkened the walls over centuries. Frescoes painted directly onto the rock create a feeling of ancient sacredness untouched by time. At the heart of the monastery rest the relics of St. Basil of Ostrog, preserved within the upper church. The beauty of the Ostrog monastery cannot be separated from its setting. Few monasteries anywhere in the world are so dramatically intertwined with nature. In the quiet town of Alcobaça, in central Portugal, rises one of the purest masterpieces of medieval Christian architecture, the Monastery of Alcobaça. The monastery was founded in 1153 by King Afonso I, Portugal's first monarch, after the Christian reconquest of the region from Moorish rule. He entrusted the monastery to the Cistercian order, a reform movement within medieval Christianity known for strict discipline and architectural austerity. Construction continued for generations, eventually creating one of the largest and most important monastic complexes in medieval Portugal. Among the monastery's most famous treasures are the extraordinary tombs of Pedro I of Portugal and Inês de Castro, whose tragic love story became one of the great legends of Portuguese history. According to tradition, Inês was murdered because of political opposition to her relationship with Prince Pedro. After becoming king, Pedro declared that she had secretly been his lawful wife and honoured her as queen even after death. Covered with delicate biblical scenes, angels and symbolic imagery, the tombs are considered among the greatest masterpieces of medieval funerary sculpture in Europe. The beauty of the monastery of Alcobaça lies in its extraordinary purity. It proves that magnificence does not require excess, that light, proportion and silence can create spiritual power equal to the grandest cathedrals in Europe. Overlooking the sweeping banks of the Dnipro River, the Kyiv Pechersk Lavra rises in a blaze of golden domes and white walls, forming one of the most magnificent spiritual landscapes in the Christian world. The origins of the monastery date back to the 11th century, when the monk Anthony of Kyiv settled in a small cave overlooking Kyiv. Seeking solitude and prayer, he began a monastic community that gradually attracted disciples and pilgrims from across the medieval state of Kievan Rus. Over time, The caves expanded into a vast religious centre known as a Lavra, a title reserved for the most important Orthodox monasteries. The visual splendour of Kyiv Pechersk Lavra is unforgettable. Its skyline of radiant golden domes rises above terraces, gardens, bell towers and churches that stretch across the hills overlooking the river. The most iconic structure is the great Lavra bell tower, whose elegant height dominates the monastery complex and can be seen across Kyiv. Nearby stands the Dormition Cathedral, reconstructed after wartime destruction and restored to its former brilliance with shining domes and richly decorated interiors. What makes the monastery truly unique are the underground cave systems that gave the Lavra its name. Deep beneath the churches and courtyards lies a labyrinth of narrow tunnels lined with chapels, relics, and the preserved remains of saints and monks. These caves embody the ancient monastic ideal of withdrawing from the world in pursuit of spiritual purification. Even today, they remain among the holiest pilgrimage destinations in Orthodox Christianity. High above the flowing waters of the Danube River, the magnificent Melk Abbey rises like a golden palace of faith and learning. Crowned with soaring towers, radiant frescoes, and grand Baroque halls, the Abbey is one of the most visually stunning Christian monasteries in the world. The origins of the Abbey date back to the 11th century, when a Benedictine monastery was established on the rocky hill overlooking the river. The Abbey, as seen today, was largely rebuilt during the early 18th century under architect Jakob Prantauer, who transformed it into a masterpiece of Baroque architecture. The beauty of Melk Abbey is immediate and overwhelming. Its golden yellow facade stretches majestically across the hilltop, visible from far along the Danube. Inside, the Abbey unfolds into a dazzling world of marble halls, sweeping staircases, gilded decorations, ceiling frescoes, and elaborate chapels. One of the Abbey's greatest treasures is its extraordinary library, a masterpiece of monastic scholarship and Baroque design. The library hall contains thousands of ancient manuscripts and volumes bound in richly decorated leather and gold. Ceiling frescoes celebrate the pursuit of wisdom and divine knowledge, while warm wood tones and elegant architecture create one of the most beautiful reading rooms in Europe. Melk Abbey's location adds enormously to its beauty. Perched above the Danube River, at the gateway to the Wachau Valley, the monastery dominates one of Europe's most scenic landscapes. The Abbey forms part of the Wachau cultural landscape, designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its exceptional cultural and natural significance. Hidden deep within the pine forests and dramatic peaks of the Rila Mountains, the Rila Monastery stands as one of the most beautiful and spiritually significant Christian monasteries in the world. Surrounded by mist-covered mountains and ancient forests, the monastery appears like a vision from another age, a sanctuary of faith, art and national memory preserved in the heart of Bulgaria. The origins of the monastery date back to the 10th century and the life of Ivan of Rila, a hermit who withdrew into the mountains seeking solitude and spiritual devotion. Over centuries, the monastery grew into the most important spiritual centre of Bulgaria and a major beacon of Orthodox Christianity throughout the Balkans. The visual impact of Rila Monastery is unforgettable. Enclosed by high stone walls resembling a medieval fortress, the monastery opens into a vibrant central courtyard filled with arches, balconies, domes and painted facades. At the centre rises the Church of the Nativity of the Virgin, crowned by black and white striped arches and gleaming domes that contrast beautifully against the mountain sky. The frescoes of Rila Monastery are among the most celebrated in the Orthodox Christian world. Created by some of Bulgaria's greatest artists during the 19th century Bulgarian national revival, the paintings combine profound spirituality with remarkable emotional intensity. Scenes of saints, martyrs, paradise, and the Last Judgment cover walls, ceilings, and arcades in extraordinary detail. The beauty of the Rila Monastery lies in its extraordinary union of nature, spirituality, and artistic brilliance. Few monasteries combine such dramatic mountain scenery with such vivid architectural and artistic expression. Rising atop colossal stone pillars that seem to defy gravity itself, the monasteries of Meteora are among the most extraordinary sacred sites on earth. Suspended high above the plains of central Greece, these monasteries appear almost otherworldly, like islands of faith floating between heaven and earth. Their very name, Meteora, means suspended in the air, and few places in the Christian world capture that feeling more powerfully. The origins of monastic life at Meteora date back to the 11th century, when hermit monks first settled in caves and crevices within the towering sandstone cliffs. By the 14th century, organized monasteries began to appear atop the rock pillars. The monk Athanasius the Meteorite founded the great Meteoron Monastery, establishing the spiritual foundation for what would become one of the most important monastic communities in Orthodox Christianity. The beauty of Meteora lies first in its astonishing setting. Massive vertical rock columns rise abruptly from the Thessalian plain, some reaching heights of over 400 meters or 1,312 feet. Upon these narrow summits stand monasteries seemingly impossible to construct. Before modern stairways were built, monks and supplies reached the monasteries through rope ladders, baskets, and primitive winch systems suspended over dizzying heights. The extreme isolation protected the communities during periods of invasion and political instability. Inside the monasteries, visitors encounter a world of Byzantine spirituality preserved through centuries. Dimly lit chapels glow with candlelight reflecting from golden icons, painted frescoes, and incense-filled sanctuaries. Walls are covered with vivid depictions of saints, martyrs, biblical scenes, and visions of heaven and judgment. The frescoes of Meteora are among the finest examples of post-Byzantine religious art in Greece. Today, the monasteries continue to function as active religious communities while welcoming pilgrims and travelers from around the world. High within the dramatic peaks of Catalonia's serrated mountains stands the breathtaking Montserrat Monastery. Perched among towering rock formations that appear sculpted by myth itself, the monastery combines natural grandeur, deep religious devotion, and centuries of artistic and cultural heritage. The origins of the monastery date back to the 11th century, when Benedictine monks established a religious community near a mountain hermitage associated with visions of the Virgin Mary. According to tradition, shepherd children discovered a sacred statue of the Virgin in a cave within the mountains, and attempts to move it failed because the statue mysteriously became too heavy. The site soon became a center of pilgrimage, and the monastery gradually grew around it. The name Montserrat means serrated mountain, a reference to the jagged limestone peaks that surround the monastery. Weathered over millions of years into dramatic shapes and towering spires, the mountains create one of Europe's most striking landscapes. At the center of the monastery stands the Basilica of Montserrat, a sacred space filled with warm light, rich decoration, and centuries of devotion. Its greatest treasure is the revered statue of Our Lady of Montserrat, affectionately known as La Moreneta, the Little Dark One. The dark wooden statue of the Virgin Mary and Child is one of the most beloved religious icons in Spain and the patron saint of Catalonia. Throughout history, the monastery has held immense cultural importance for Catalonia. During periods of political suppression, Montserrat became a centre for preserving Catalan language, culture and identity. Today, Montserrat Monastery remains not only a place of prayer, but also a symbol of resilience, heritage and national memory. Rising dramatically from the tidal waters of Normandy like a vision from medieval legend, Mont Saint-Michel is one of the most breathtaking Christian monasteries in the world. According to tradition, the origins of the monastery date to the year 708, when Saint Aubert claimed that the Archangel Michael appeared to him in a vision and instructed him to build a sanctuary upon the rocky island. Over centuries, Benedictine monks transformed the island into a magnificent abbey complex that became known throughout Christendom as the Wonder of the West. The beauty of Mont Saint-Michel lies not only in its architecture, but in the astonishing way the monastery rises directly from the rock island itself. The medieval builders faced immense engineering challenges. Layer upon layer of structures were constructed upward along the steep granite peak, creating a vertical masterpiece unlike any other monastery in Europe. At the summit stands the Abbey church, crowned by a golden statue of the Archangel Michael that shines above sea and sky. What makes Mont Saint-Michel truly unique is its relationship with the sea. The tides surrounding the island are among the most dramatic in Europe. During high tide, water encircles the mount completely, turning it into an isolated island fortress. At low tide, vast expanses of sand stretch outward across the bay. This constant transformation gives Mont Saint-Michel an almost mystical character. The island remains one of France's most treasured landmarks and one of Christianity's most iconic sacred destinations.